Yay? All right. I just need to do a title. From pain to power. Conversation with Beck. I recorded my video yesterday, and I was on the top of the hill. I had cleared Lucy's house out yesterday, nightmare weekend, and I was on the way down there, and I thought, right, I'm going to stop and record this video on the hill, and I nailed it. And at the end, I said, I'm talking with Beck Simmons tomorrow, da 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 da, and I stopped, and I was like, shit, that wasn't right.
Did you say that? I watched the whole video and I didn't.
No, I redid it afterwards.
Redid it.
I mean, I was like,
oh, the whole thing, because you did.
Believe it.
Brilliant.
It just came out, and then in the moment you say it, you go, "No, that wasn't it."
That's wrong.
Anyway. Right, where is it gone now? Live on Facebook. Oh, there it is. Oh yeah, good. Share on my timeline, public. Zoom meeting title on Facebook. From pain to power. Okay, ready?
Yep.
You do not have permission to live stream. No.
Oh.
What? Sharing your own timeline. What's going on with that? That's weird.
Typical.
I've used this before loads of times.
I was just going to say, have you done it before? Have you always done it? Are you on your personal profile?
Yeah.
And you've done it on your personal profile?
Yeah.
How bizarre. I mean, I don't do anything this fancy with technology, I have to say.
But share on your own timeline, public, go live. Okay. I think because I'd done it again, I'd hit lives twice. Setting up, done, redirecting. Yeah, I think we're live.
Perfect.
I'm assuming we're live.
Tells me we're live, so
yeah, cool, we're on.
Let's go for it.
Do it. Hi everybody, welcome. If you're watching this live, I can't see anyone yet, but when you watch this, or if you're watching this on the recording, welcome to this. I'm here with Beck Sheffield, who I'm collaborating with in 2 months now.
Yeah.
For the North Devon Innate Health and Wellness Conference, and we're going to have probably about a 15-minute conversation now to explore this idea of from pain to power, which I've touched on in a couple of posts in the last couple of days. So if you're watching this live or on recording, drop us some questions if you want, and we'll do our best to engage. But let's explore this, because it's a big topic. It's really important. It's very topical, given what's going on, certainly in my life right now, and we know it's going to help some people. So, Beck, you are a self-love guru, and you're all about self-love and self-knowledge. And I know, as someone who has a healthy amount of skepticism about all things personal development related, that can be quite an ambiguous term and an idea, and it's not always clear really what that means. So can you explain a little bit about what you mean by that and what that is for you?
Yeah, for sure. So for me, around about, I think it was 8 coming up 9 years now, I had a kind of, I guess the best way of saying it is a breakdown. I hit rock bottom. I had a whole heap of stuff going on in my life that I didn't really understand why they were happening, and I was really struggling, and it really looked to me like a lot of stuff was coming at me that I had no idea how to handle. So pretty much overnight, my relationship ended. I left my job and I walked away from my church community that I'd known my whole life. And it was at that point that I started getting interested in, well, how could I be different? How could I have a life that was more comfortable than what I'd been experiencing? And I got involved in a conversation that pointed me within, that pointed me to something about myself that was immensely powerful and helpful. And the within part for me is in when you mentioned our conference, innate health. That's kind of an inside health, as something that's within me already. And I began this exploration, getting to know who I was from the inside out. And one of the things, the biggest thing for me, was beginning to see that I had spent my whole life looking for love and approval from outside of me, when in actual fact that came from within. And so that's where self-love came from for me. It was about knowing who I am, like both on kind of the level of being a human. You know, I call myself Beck, I have longish hair, I like particular music, I like particular activities, knowing who I was on that level, but also knowing who I was before any of that, before I have a personality. Like there's something about us that's quite spiritual and profound. And so getting to know all of that and knowing that, for me, became a loving that. I really loved who I was on all levels. And the more that I found that I loved myself, the easier it was to have healthy relationships. I'm now in a very healthy and happy relationship with my partner. I run a business which is very successful and have a great time doing that. I have an incredible relationship with my family. And all of that comes from me knowing myself, loving myself and trusting myself. And I notice there are times in my life now where I can get lost, I can feel anxious, I can feel stressed, I can feel overwhelmed. And at some point, what I notice is I've forgotten who I am on both those levels. I'm trying to be somebody else. I'm trying to impress somebody. Like I can even feel as I'm doing this live, there's a part of me that's going, oh, I hope everyone listening is thinking she's great. And immediately as that thought comes into my mind, I start to lose myself a bit and I start to wobble and think, oh, I've said the wrong thing. I've not. And then something in me kind of wakes up to come back to who you are. You're Beck, and you're perfectly okay to show up as you are. And I don't know if this shows up on Facebook, but our business name is Dare to Be You. And the reason for that is because everything about who I was for a long time, I hid it. I was scared of it. I didn't know how to be who I wanted to be. And now everything about the self-love for me is about being who you are as an individual. And you'll be different to me. And that's beautiful. That's right. And that's as it should be.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my summary of self-love. And
okay. So it's not how some people might hear that as, you know, check me out, I'm so amazing, I love myself, that kind of like self-important, arrogant kind of putting yourself on a pedestal kind of thing, which some people might associate with, well, that person loves themselves too much, you know, like that's a bad thing. That's not what you're talking about at all.
No, it's a balance thing, because there's what I see happens a lot in life, and that kind of arrogance that you talk about, we get a feel for that in a person, don't we? If you walk into a room or meet someone that's that kind of arrogant, it turns us off. But equally, when you meet a person that's really unsure of themselves and very insecure, that's also quite a turn off. And for me, it's in between those two. It's knowing that I am this incredible energy of life, but I'm also nothing and nobody on a planet of 7 billion people. And finding those two together in the middle is where I live from now. And that comes across when people, you know, meet somebody, whether it's me or someone else. I don't think anyone would ever describe me as arrogant. That's the abilities I'm talking to. But I don't think they mostly describe me as insecure either.
It's like you're everything and you're nothing at the same time. And it's like, when I meet people who have that level of understanding and groundedness, let's say, there is very often this combination of sort of self-assuredness in that they trust themselves, like you said, like they back themselves, but they're humble too. Like there's usually a like, it's like a quiet confidence rather than some kind of flashy check me out, I love myself so much. It's not that. It's
Yes, no, not at all that.
calm kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting then, isn't it, how that then relates to this idea of understanding pain and being able to use it. From your perspective, what's your take on, like, I'm guessing you still have a bad day now and again, like you still have moments where maybe you're not so sure about who you are, what you're doing, or
Yes.
how does that look to you?
Yeah. So to kind of answer your question, yes, I'm still human. So I have those days or those moments where, you know, I'll give you an example because I find it easier often to talk about this in an actual live example. About 18 months ago, I started volunteering for a youth club that happens in my local village. And it was something I'd wanted to do for a really long time. But the first night that I got there and was in this room with sort of 18 teenagers that have never met me before, I completely shrank and I was so unsure of myself, and I was thinking, why did I volunteer for this? I can't do this. You know, the other lady in the room, she's a vicar, and so she was stood up at the front of the room very confident and sharing what we were going to do at this youth club, and I was just stood there thinking, I'm going to have to quit. I'm just going to have to quit. I can't do this. This isn't for me. What was I thinking? Go back to your farmhouse in rural North Devon and keep quiet, you know. And that was what went on for me for probably quite a few months running the youth club. But somewhere in me, there was something that knew that I wanted to do the youth club. So I kind of kept going. And I'm sure all of us can think of examples where we're like, I don't think I can do this, but we want to. So we find a way to keep going. And I think, you know, in that scenario, I wouldn't say I was in pain, but I was definitely uncomfortable those first few experiences. But something drove me on because I knew it was something I wanted to do. And here I am 18 months later. I'm one of the main leads of the youth club. I turn up now. I still have nights where I think, oh gosh, the activity is not going to be as much fun as I think it is, or, you know, that those kinds of things still crop up for me. But equally, I think when we have an experience of that in real life, we see that we're okay, actually. Like nothing bad happened because I felt nervous for a couple of hours, and it's like, okay. So there's something about our emotions, and I think we're going to touch on that hopefully in a moment, but there's something about our emotions that we maybe misunderstand. We don't necessarily know what it is they're pointing to and what we can do with those emotions, how we can actually use them in a positive way. So I still have things like that go on for me. I use that to my advantage as much as I can now, and move it forward into, I think your phrase, into power.
Like I use pain. It's the broadest definition of pain, so I'm not just talking about you know, it can be frustration, it can be annoyance, it can be anger, it can be sadness. I was using pain as a sort of catch-all negative emotion. But like we are taught, I think, implicitly and explicitly in our sort of modern Western culture that any kind of negative emotion is bad. You shouldn't feel like that. You definitely shouldn't demonstrate it. Stop misbehaving, and you shouldn't talk about it. And certainly in the world of men, I mean, it's equally true for women as well. But I think, as you know, I do men's work. That's how we originally connected, actually, when I was doing some research for the Isle of Man last year, or the year before now. There's definitely this idea that is so prevalent that it's like, it's just not the done thing, and that you should just be okay all the time, and that negative emotion is somehow bad. And it seems to me that what that creates is this environment where we either just deny it completely to ourselves, often not even to other people. We just go, no, I'm fine, or we try and distract ourselves from it. You know, we just try to put your mind somewhere else. So this is where people get into trouble with drink or drugs or sex or violence or whatever it is that people use to just not engage with the emotion, which is just complete denial. And that's really dangerous. It's really, really dangerous, because it doesn't go anywhere, for a start. It tends to mean you're just going around in circles. Or people can very often compartmentalize their negative emotions, often for a really long time, decades sometimes, but then boom, it reappears at some point, and it's never really been embraced or understood or acknowledged or accepted, and that's when it can become a really big problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's the essence of what it was for me. I wore a mask for a very long time, pretended I was okay on the outside, but inside I was just falling apart. I had no idea how to live my life, how to be happy, how to, you know, any of the things that I thought I wanted in life. I had no idea how to get them. So I would show up and I would paste on, hello, I'm back, I'm happy, I'm okay. And inside I was just tearing apart. And like you say, if that's squashed down at some point, that is going to pop up. And when it did for me, my whole life kind of burnt to the ground. And it was like, wow, okay, here's a space then to create something new.
Yeah.
What can I do from that space?
Yeah.
Kind of phoenix from the ashes, if you like.
Yeah. And very often, I mean, a lot of people like both of us are here talking about this now and doing this kind of work because we've hit a point that was so uncomfortable that there was no way back. You know, you had to figure it out. For me, it was a panic attack in front of a room full of people at work. That brought it into the light and forced me to actually confront it and understand it. And I think that for me is the ultimate thing here. What you said about before about self-understanding. It's not about denying the emotion or fixing it or even deliberately kind of changing it. It's the willingness to feel it without judgment and accept it, even though you don't like it, even though it feels horrible, even though it is a very uncomfortable experience. Often it's the willingness to be able to meet it and look it in the eyes and learn from it and learn whatever information there is in it to help you to understand yourself. That's how I think about what you call self-understanding.
Yeah. And I think there was one key word in there that you said that I want to jump all over because I think this is super important. You said in the mix of that, without judgment.
Right.
And I think that was the bit for me that changed the most. Like I had all sorts that went on for me, but the biggest problem I had, if you like, was that everything I did and thought, I was judging myself. Just judging. It was like, you can't think that, you can't wear those clothes, you can't get into that scenario. And now a lot more of the time, the self-love part for me is that if I have thoughts or if I have experiences or stuff's going on, I can look at that, like you said, in the eyes without the judgment.
Yeah.
That makes a massive difference.
Yeah. It sounds easy.
It's not always. There's a lot of that's not easy.
Yeah.
It can be. I'm not saying, I've had moments where it has been, but that's not, I wouldn't be doing a good service here if I didn't say there are times when that's hard. That's going to pull you up on, really pull you up to go, right, okay, how do I look at myself and what's going on for me without judgment?
Yeah.
It might not be the easiest thing you ever do in your life, but it's the most worthwhile.
Yeah. It strikes me that is the key to emotional freedom.
Yeah.
It's not this idea that's often put out there into the world that you can just live this life of bliss and unicorns and rainbows and everything's happy all the time. That's not really it, and that's not really how life works. The real key to peace is being able to be okay even when you're not okay. It's that allowance and acceptance of whatever's happening to me right now, whatever my experience is. This is normal, this is me, this is okay, even though it might feel absolutely awful.
Yeah.
That's what self-understanding is, and that's what self-love is, really.
Yeah.
And it's so freeing. And if you're willing and able to do that, that then can become the platform for the power. That can then give you the motivation, the strength, the courage, the determination, whatever it is that you need to then move from that place.
Yeah.
And not be just completely overwhelmed by whatever's going on. That's what I mean about with the idea of from pain to power. It's coming from self-understanding and acceptance, and still feeling it.
Yep.
But using that to go forward.
Yeah. That's the most impactful thing we can do for ourselves and other people. Is to have that self-understanding and allow it to be powerful in us. Allow it to, because I know there's a quote, and I'll probably mash this up a little bit. It's quite a well-known one about we're not actually afraid of being powerful. We're not actually afraid of failure. We're afraid of being powerful.
Yeah.
That's the thing here, isn't it? We hold ourselves back, and I know that's what went on for me. I held myself back. I grew up in a community that sort of, like you said, both explicitly and not, told me that as a female, I wasn't allowed to be powerful. I wasn't allowed to be at the front of the room. I wasn't allowed to have opinions and show up. I was to be quiet and in the background. And definitely, it took a lot for me to get past that and go, well, am I allowed to be powerful? Am I allowed to sit here and talk and share and be a personality in a room? Yes, I am actually. And in fact, I do a disservice if I'm not that. If we hide ourselves away, we don't serve anyone or anything. And that kind of comes back to me to what we talked about earlier, that middle ground of kind of humble self-knowledge. I get to show up now with that kind of knowing of who I am, but at the same time knowing you're that as well, which brings us to an even playing field. Because arrogance is only a misunderstanding that we're actually equal. There's no one of us here, and I don't just mean you and me, anybody on this planet. We're equal. We come into this game of life as equal players. That's a helpful thing to know. Yeah,
for sure. Great. Well, I think we're at about our 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a bit about the conference?
Yeah, for sure.
What's it about? What will people get out of it?
Yeah. So to kind of summarize in a way that everything I've talked about and Nathaniel's talked about, some of those benefits of seeing and understanding who we truly are, so that we get to live our lives in the way that is most comfortable for us, to be able to know that we're okay even when we don't feel it, to know that we can take any pain or discomfort we're in and use that to our advantage. To know that about yourself, that will be the benefit of being in the room at our conference. That will be, you'll come away with a deep understanding of that being true for you. Like everything we've shared might sound really, really nice, and that's great for you, Beck and Nathaniel, but what about me? The conference is about giving you the space to know that for you, to explore that that's true for you as well. And so the conference is taking place in beautiful North Devon on the 15th to the 17th of March. So 2 months, we'll be in the room in 2 months' time. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I think, Nathaniel, you've got a link, which I think you'll pop beneath the video, will you, for people to get their tickets. And it's on January sale at the moment. So if you want to get your tickets at a slightly reduced rate, get it now. And yeah, is there anything else I need to say about the conference? That's all the practical bits I can think of. 3 days.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, so I'm really excited about this. I'm a West Country boy anyway, so the idea of doing something like this down in Devon appealed to me straight away because it's such an amazing part of the world. And the thing that really jumped out at me, I mean, I'm already completely on board with the idea of what you're doing and helping people to understand this in an experiential way. And that's the thing that has made such a huge difference for me personally, and that's such a powerful thing that I bring into my work with people is, we can talk theory all day long, but the thing that really makes the difference for people is when you are in an immersive environment and you are surrounded by the other people who are exploring this in a practical way, who are talking about it, who are not stood at the front of the room with a whiteboard giving you some model to think about, but actually helping you to navigate your own experience real time in the moment. That for me has been utterly profound. And that's one of the reasons why I go to retreats and conferences. It's one of the reasons why I run them as well, because seems to be the way that people get it the quickest, the easiest. So when you first talked to me about it, I immediately thought, oh, this is a great idea. And the two things that really jumped out at me in terms of how you were talking about it was, one, you were talking about wanting to make this accessible for lots of people. So without you having to go and study all the books for hours and hours and hours, or go and spend a ridiculous amount of money on some high-end retreat or something like that. Yeah, of course you can learn this stuff in those ways, but you don't need to. There are much more accessible ways to do it. And you were talking about building a community and building a community in the Southwest of people who are open to these ideas and who want to understand themselves more deeply, so that they can go on and do good things in the world. And that for me that's why I'm here, that's why I'm involved, that's why I'm really happy to be speaking, and I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah, if you want to have a look at it, there'll be a link underneath this video some point in the next couple of hours, so go and have a look at that. And if you want to come and join us, please do. And if you want to have a chat about it, reach out to Beck or I, and we're happy to answer any questions you've got.
Yeah, we are.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you so much, Beck.